You are being lied to every single day that you can't afford a house because of inflation, because of supply chain bottlenecks. You're told it's because you didn't save enough or you didn't cut back on lattes. That is the biggest, most insulting lie of the modern era. The truth? You aren't being priced out of the housing market. You are being hunted. You are not competing with another family for that three-bedroom colonial. You are competing against a $10 trillion financial black hole, a machine that has been given direct, high-level access to the infinite money printer at the Federal Reserve. And it is using that infinite money to execute a methodical, quiet, and permanent acquisition of the one asset you need to survive: shelter. The American dream wasn't lost. It was stolen. It was repossessed. It was bought in an all-cash offer, 20% above asking price, by an algorithm. BlackRock and the handful of elite managers who run the world do not want you to be a homeowner. They want you to be a tenant, a permanent renter, in a property they own. They are engineering a new society, a society of landlords and serfs, a neo-feudal nightmare where you will, quite literally, own nothing, and you will not be happy. They aren't just buying your neighborhood. They've invented a truly sick financial weapon that allows them to buy your neighborhood and then use your own rent payments to get all their money back instantly, so they can go buy the next neighborhood. It is the perfect parasitic loop. Where are you watching from? What is the average rent in your city? I want to see a map of the financial occupation. And if you are new here, subscribe. We are not theorists. We are forensic accountants, and we are following the money. The unfiltered truth lives here. To understand the nightmare of today, you have to understand the test run of 2008. The official story you were told about the 2008 financial crisis is a fairy tale. The story goes that greedy, stupid banks created subprime mortgages. They gave loans to people who couldn't afford them. They bundled these toxic loans into bonds, mortgage-backed securities, or MBS, and sold them. When the homeowners defaulted, the bonds were worthless, and the system collapsed. The lesson, we were told, was that banks had too much freedom. But that wasn't the lesson. That was the cover story. The media, owned by the same institutions, told you to blame your neighbor, the one who bought too much house. They needed you to be angry at the irresponsible borrower, so you wouldn't see the responsible executive who packaged the poison, got it stamped AAA by his friends at the rating agencies, and sold it to your own pension fund. 2008 wasn't a failure of the system. It was a transition. It was the single greatest transfer of wealth in human history, a fire sale that showed the financial elite a brand new, terrifyingly profitable business model. When the dust settled, who was left standing? Not the banks. They were technically bankrupt. Not the homeowners. Millions were foreclosed on. The ones left standing were the asset managers, the shadow banks, BlackRock, the Federal Reserve, the high temple of money, and the U.S. Treasury turned to one man, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, to manage the crisis. They hired him to handle the bailout. They put BlackRock in charge of buying the toxic assets, those worthless mortgage bonds, from the very banks that had just imploded. Think about that. The Fed prints trillions of dollars out of thin air to save the economy, and then hands that blank check to a private corporation to decide where the money goes. BlackRock became, overnight, the unofficial fourth branch of government. But here's what was really happening. While BlackRock was getting paid by the government to manage the bailout on Wall Street, its private equity cousins were busy on Main Street. Firms like Blackstone, which, by the way, was founded by the same men who founded BlackRock, saw the opportunity. They didn't buy the paper assets. They went for the hard assets. While millions of families were being kicked out of their homes, Blackstone created a new subsidiary you might have heard of, Invitation Homes. They used billions in bailout-fueled capital to go on the largest housing buying spree in history. They swooped into foreclosure auctions in Atlanta, in Phoenix, in Tampa, and they bought tens of thousands of homes for pennies on the dollar. This wasn't just a transfer of wealth. It was a transfer of property, of power. They didn't just take the money. They took the collateral. They took the keys. They didn't flip them. They held them. They renovated them with cheap paint and laminate flooring, and then rented them back, often to the very same class of people who had just lost their homes. They proved a new model, the single-family rental, or SFR model. They proved that managing 50,000 individual rental homes could be just as profitable as owning one giant apartment building. The 2008 crisis wasn't a mistake. It was the proof of concept. They learned that owning the debt, the mortgage, was risky. The homeowner could default, but owning the house itself and collecting the rent, that was a guaranteed, perpetual cash flow. In the 20th century, the banker's model was to trap you in 30 years of interest payments. Sound familiar? In the 21st century, their new model is to trap you in a lifetime of rent payments. In the old system, they encouraged you to take on debt to buy the dream of ownership. In the new system, they use their access to infinite 0% interest debt from the Fed to buy the asset, and then they tell you that renting is the new freedom. Sound familiar? They are engineering the economy, and then engineering the narrative to make you accept it. They used the 2008 crash to get the houses for cheap. But now, they're in a new phase. They're not waiting for a crash. They are causing the price surge. They are manufacturing the scarcity. And they are doing it with a financial weapon so complex, so brilliant, and so parasitic that it makes the 2008 subprime mortgage look like child's play. So what changed? After 2008, BlackRock and its competitors proved the single-family rental model worked. But it was slow. They had to use their own capital, buy a house, fix it up, find a tenant, and then slowly collect the rent, month after month. That's not fast enough. Not when you have trillions of dollars to deploy. They needed a way to accelerate the process. They needed a way to buy a house today and get their money back tomorrow. And so, they invented one. It's a mechanism that lives in the shadows of the financial world. You will not read about it in the news. Your realtor does not understand it. Your mortgage broker has never heard of it. It's called single-family rental securitization. That name sounds boring. It's designed to be boring. It's designed to put you to sleep. But it is the single most destructive force in the modern housing market. It is the engine of BlackRock's plan. It's the exact same playbook that caused the 2008 crash. The exact same one. But this time, they've replaced the subprime homeowner with you, the renter. And this time, they aren't just betting on paper. They're taking the physical houses. This mechanism is how they can show up to a $400,000 home and bid $500,000 in cash. This is how they can lose money on the deal and still become billionaires from it. This is the receipt, the blueprint of the entire conspiracy. And the institutions that are funding this machine, the ones buying these new toxic bonds. The receipt is wilder than you think. This is the core of it all. Pay attention. This is the how. This is the deep dive. Here is the four-step process. The machine that is eating your neighborhood. Step 1, the acquisition. BlackRock, or a private equity firm like KKR, or an Invitation Homes, identifies a target market. Phoenix, Atlanta, Charlotte, Nashville. They don't look for mansions. They look for this starter home. The 3-bed, 2-bath house that you are trying to buy. They deploy a multi-billion-dollar fund. This isn't a guy in a suit with a spreadsheet. This is BlackRock's Aladdin supercomputer, the Eye of Sauron for finance. They use sophisticated algorithms, likely running on Aladdin, to identify neighborhoods, zip codes, even specific blocks that are ripe for takeover. It's running predictive models 24/7. It knows what zip code will be hot in 6 months. It knows what street to buy, what house to buy, and exactly how much to overbid to guarantee you lose. It is financial warfare waged by an algorithm against your family. Then, they attack the market. They set up hundreds of shell companies with local-sounding names. Sunbelt Homes, LLC, Carolina Properties, Arizona Investments. They make all-cash offers, waiving inspection, waiving appraisal. They intentionally bid 20, 30, even 50% over the asking price. You, with your FHA loan and your 20% down payment, cannot compete. You are shut out. You lose the bid. The algorithm has just bought your house. In the first quarter of 2021, institutional investors bought 1 in 7 homes sold in America. In some zip codes, like in Atlanta, that number climbed to a horrifying 40%. They aren't competing in the market. They are the market. Step 2, the bundle. The firm, let's call it Predator Equity, now owns 5,000 of these starter homes. They do not want to be landlords. That's messy. They are financiers. So they take these 5,000 homes and bundle them into a single, new financial product. They calculate the total future rent they will collect from these 5,000 homes. Let's say it's $10 million every month. That $10 million a month cash flow is now a financial asset. The houses are just the plumbing. The rent is the product. This bundle is called a single-family rental, or SFR security. It is exactly the same concept as the 2008 mortgage-backed security. But instead of being backed by mortgage payments, it's backed by your rent payments. Step 3. The securitization. The loop. This is the moment of pure, parasitic genius. Predator Equity now takes this new SFR bond to Wall Street, to Goldman Sachs, to JP Morgan, and they sell it. Who do they sell it to? Who is dumb enough to buy a bond backed by your rent after we just saw this movie in 2008? This is the darkest part of the secret. They sell these bonds to pension funds. Your 401k, your retirement account. They sell them to insurance companies. They sell them to foreign sovereign wealth funds. Why? Because the Federal Reserve, in its quest to save the economy, has held interest rates at 0% for over a decade. This desperation wasn't an accident. It was created. The Fed's zero interest rate policy, or ZRP, was a war on savings. It was a war on safe investments. If you are a pension fund manager for teachers or firefighters, you have a legal duty to find a return. The Fed has forced you into a corner where safe bonds pay nothing. These giant, trillion-dollar pension funds must get a return on their money to pay future retirees. But bank accounts pay 0%. Government bonds pay 0%. They are desperate for yield. And so, Predator Equity comes to them and says, "Hey, we have a brand new, safe asset. It's not a risky mortgage. It's rent. People will always pay their rent. It's a AAA-rated investment that pays 4%. Predator Equity isn't just offering a product. They are offering the only life raft in an ocean the Fed just boiled. The same rating agencies, Moody's, S&P, that rated the 2008 subprime junk as AAA are now rating these rent bonds as AAA. The illusion is complete. The pension fund, desperate for that 4%, buys the bond. And just like that, Predator Equity gets all its money back. They just bought 5,000 houses for $2 billion, and they sold the rent bonds for $2.1 billion. They just got all their capital back, plus a profit, and they still own the houses. Step 4. The infinite leverage loop. This is the checkmate. Predator Equity now has its $2.1 billion back. What does it do? It takes that money and goes right back into the market. It buys 10,000 more homes. It bundles them. It securitizes them. It sells the new rent bonds back to the same pension funds. It gets its money back again. It is an infinite money machine. It is a leverage loop spun from the shadow banking system. They are using your future rent payments, sold to your own retirement fund, as the collateral to get the cash to buy your neighbor's house. You are funding your own displacement. This creates a terrifying moral hazard. The firm needs to keep rents high to make the rent bond valuable. You are no longer a tenant. You are a cash flow producing unit. You are a line item on a global bond. The repair request you submit for a leaking roof? That's not a maintenance issue. That is a cost that reduces the yield on the bond. The cracked foundation? The broken HVAC? They are financially incentivized to ignore you, to give you the worst possible service for the highest possible price. Because you don't matter. The bondholder in Tokyo matters. They will raise your rent 10%, 20%, 30% in a single year. They don't care if you're forced to move out. In fact, they prefer it. An empty unit can be re-leased at an even higher market rate, making their rent bond even more valuable. The market saw over $23 billion in new SFR securitizations in 2021 alone. This is an explosion. This is why they can overpay. They don't care about the price of the house. That's irrelevant. They only care about the rent they can charge, because that rent is the product they are selling to Wall Street. This is an engineered collapse of private homeownership. They are not just building a real estate portfolio. They are building a monopoly, a cartel. BlackRock itself, through its Aladdin risk management system, is the central nervous system for this entire industry. Its software, which manages over $21 trillion in global assets, is used by the Fed, by the Treasury, and by its competitors. BlackRock is the one who invented the mortgage-backed security in the 1980s. They created the first beast. Now, they have perfected it. This isn't a market. It's a machine. And its sole purpose is to financialize every last hard asset on Earth, starting with the roof over your head. This is the end game. This isn't just about houses. This system, this securitization machine, is the blueprint for the Great Reset. They are doing it to farmland. They are doing it to water rights. They are doing it to hospitals. If it produces a predictable cash flow, they will bundle it, securitize it, and sell it until everything you need to live is owned by a handful of asset managers, and you are forced to pay them rent just to exist. You will own nothing. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is a business model. It is the logical conclusion of parasitic finance. This is the true ownership society they have planned. They own everything. You own nothing. It is a return to a two-tiered system: the landed gentry, the global asset managers, and the tenant class. That's you. The only choice you get is which corporate-branded feudal manor you'll pay rent to. This new system is infinitely more dangerous than the one that broke in 2008. The 2008 crash was about paper assets, toxic mortgages. When it collapsed, banks were bailed out and homeowners were destroyed. But what happens when this bubble pops? What happens when a real recession hits and millions of tenants can't pay the 30% rent hike? When that happens, the SFR bonds, the rent bonds, go to zero. And who takes the loss? Not BlackRock. They're just the manager, collecting their fees. The losers are the pension funds that bought the bonds. Your retirement account, wiped out. But this time, something much worse happens. When the financial product collapses, the physical asset, the houses, remain. And who will be there, in the chaos, to buy those foreclosed bonds and the physical homes attached to them, for pennies on the dollar? The same people who started the fire. BlackRock, the Federal. They will consolidate all of it. This is the final philosophical lesson. We are living in a mass, collective denial. We pretend these are market forces. We trust the institutions, the Fed, the rating agencies, the government, who are all complicit in this illusion. They are all operating on borrowed time. And the clock is about to strike midnight. This isn't capitalism. This is centrally planned predation, disguised as a free market. They are counting on you to be too tired, too confused by the financial jargon, and too distracted by streaming services to see the mechanism. They are building a global plantation, and we are being harvested. What do you think happens to a society when an entire generation, raised on the promise of ownership, finally realizes the game is rigged? What happens when they realize they have been permanently locked out of the dream and downgraded to a permanent renter? If you want to keep exposing the machine, subscribe. Share this video. You need to show this to anyone who is trying to buy a home. They are not just raising the price of the ladder. They are pulling it up and selling it for parts.